Before we enter the Great Smoky Mountains, where the fog doesn't just surround you, it remembers you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and if you've ever heard your own voice echo back with a delay. Hit that like button if hearing yourself from 5 seconds ago terrifies you. Subscribe for more real military encounters that prove some places don't just repeat what you do. They learn from it. Now, let's meet the Marines who fought echoes that learned to predict their future. My name is Private First Class Eric Cole, United States Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. What I'm about to tell you sounds like science fiction, like a glitch in the Matrix, like some temporal paradox from a time travel movie. But it's real, it's documented, and it's classified at a level so high that even telling you this much probably gets me disappeared. 11 Marines died in the Great Smoky Mountains in November 2023. The official story is training accident, environmental hazards, tragic loss during routine exercise. But that's a lie designed to hide what really happened in that fog. The truth is, we encountered something that doesn't just mimic you. It remembers you, records you, learns your patterns, and eventually, it starts doing what you're about to do before you do it. Speaks your words before you speak them. Makes your movements before you make them. Fires your shots before you pull the trigger. We fought echoes of ourselves. First from 5 seconds in the past, then from the present, then from 5 seconds in the future. And you can't fight an enemy that knows what you're going to do before you do it. Can't surprise someone who's already seen your next move. Can't win when your opponent is you from 5 seconds ahead. I survived because I was the youngest Marine, the most unpredictable, the most random, the one who didn't follow patterns because I barely knew the patterns to follow. I survived because chaos can't be predicted. And in that fog, predictability was death. This happened in November 2023. 12 Marines assigned to cold weather training in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Smokies are famous for their fog, the smoke that gives the mountains their name. Dense, persistent, year-round. The Cherokee people have lived near these mountains for thousands of years and have always treated the fog with respect, with caution, with fear. We should have listened to why. Our 12-man squad, Staff Sergeant Blake Reeves, squad leader, Sergeant Tyler Walsh, second in command, Corporals Harrison, Mitchell, and Coleman, Lance Corporals Bennett, Parker, and Sullivan, Specialists Garcia and Carter, Private Nash and myself, Private First Class Eric Cole. All infantry Marines, all experienced in field operations, all confident we could handle anything a national park could throw at us. We also had a guide. Thomas Stands Tall, 70 years old, Cherokee elder from the Qualla Boundary Reservation. His people had lived near the Smokies for generations, had stories about the mountains going back centuries, and he tried to warn us before we even started the exercise. "The fog here is different," Stands Tall said during our briefing at the Clingman's Dome trailhead. "It doesn't just hide things, it records them. My grandfather's grandfather told stories about warriors who entered the fog and heard their own voices calling back to them, saw their own movements repeated in the mist, but delayed, like the fog was playing back what they'd done moments before." "You're talking about echoes," Walsh said. He was our most skeptical Marine. Sound bounces off terrain, creates acoustic phenomena. That's physics, not supernatural. "I'm talking about something that learns," Stands Tall insisted. "The fog doesn't just echo, it remembers. It records every person who's ever walked these trails, every word spoken, every movement made, and it plays them back. But not randomly, with purpose, with learning. The fog has been recording for 1,000 years. It knows patterns, knows how humans move, how they think, how they act, and eventually it starts predicting. starts doing what you're about to do before you do it. That's not scientifically possible, Mitchell said. He had a degree in computer science. You're describing a learning algorithm, pattern recognition, predictive modeling. Fog can't do that. It's just water vapor and air. This fog can, Stanstall said quietly. And if you enter it, you'll understand. You'll hear yourself from the past, then from the present, then from the future. And when the fog starts echoing you from 5 seconds ahead, when it starts doing what you're about to do before you do it, you'll realize you're fighting an enemy that knows your every move before you make it. Reeves thanked Stanstall diplomatically and dismissed the warning as local folklore. We were Marines. We'd trained in every environment. We'd faced actual enemies with actual weapons. We weren't going to be intimidated by stories about learning fog. We deployed into the Smokies at 0600 hours on November 20th, 2023. The fog was immediate, thick, dense. Visibility maybe 20 feet. The kind of fog that makes distances feel wrong and directions feel uncertain. Perfect for training in low-visibility navigation and communication. For the first hour, everything was normal. We moved in tactical formation through the forest, maintained spacing, kept radio contact, standard patrol operations. The fog was thick but manageable. At 0715 hours, Bennett noticed the first anomaly. "Did anyone else just hear that?" Bennett asked over the radio. "Hear what?" Reeves responded. "My own voice. I said visibility is shit about 5 seconds ago, and I just heard it again. Like an echo. But delayed, not immediate. Acoustic phenomenon," Walsh said. "Sound bouncing off terrain in the fog creates weird delays. But then I heard it too. I'd said moving to next waypoint over the radio, and 5 seconds later, I heard my own voice. Exact same tone, exact same inflection. Repeat the words. Not from my radio, from the fog around me. Like someone had recorded me speaking and played it back with a 5-second delay." "Okay, that's strange," Garcia said. "I'm hearing my own transmissions delayed, like 5-second lag. All of you hearing this?" We all confirmed. Every Marine was hearing their own radio transmissions echoed back 5 seconds later. Same voice, same words, same everything, just delayed. "It's the fog," Stanstall said calmly. He was hiking with us, unarmed, serving as guide. "It's playing back what you said, recording and replaying. This is how it starts. It's just weird acoustics," Walsh insisted. "The fog is creating some kind of temporal audio delay. Nothing supernatural, just physics we don't fully understand. But at 0800 hours, it got worse. We weren't just hearing our voices delayed. We were hearing our movements. Footsteps, gear rattling, weapons being shifted. Everything we did, we heard again 5 seconds later, like the fog was recording us and playing it back on a 5-second delay." "This is more than acoustics," Mitchell said. He was our tech-minded Marine. "This is like, the fog is a recording medium, like it's storing information and replaying it. But that's not physically possible. Water vapor can't store audio data." "Tell that to my delayed footsteps," Parker said. "I can hear myself walking. From 5 seconds ago, this is seriously fucking weird." At 0830 hours, Sullivan saw his own movement echoed. He'd raised his hand to check his compass, and 5 seconds later, in the fog ahead of him, he saw a shadowy figure raise its hand in the exact same motion. Same angle. Same timing. Like watching a replay of himself from 5 seconds earlier. "Contact!" Sullivan yelled. "Movement ahead. Humanoid figure." "Hold fire," Reeves ordered. "Identify the target." Sullivan moved closer. The figure moved closer, 5 seconds delayed. Sullivan raised his weapon. The figure raised its weapon, 5 seconds delayed. Sullivan waved. The figure waved, 5 seconds delayed. "It's me," Sullivan said slowly. "That's me. My movements. From 5 seconds ago. The fog is showing me myself, like a visual echo." We all tested it. All saw the same thing. "Move your arm." 5 seconds later, see your arm movement replayed in the fog. "Speak." 5 seconds later, hear your words. "Walk." 5 seconds later, hear your footsteps and see your movement shadow in the mist. The fog was recording us, everything we did, and playing it back with a perfect 5-second delay. "This is what I warned you about," Stanstall said. "The fog records, plays back. This is the beginning. Soon it will learn your patterns, will start predicting, will echo you from the future instead of the past." "That's impossible," Walsh said. But his voice was uncertain now, because we were all experiencing something impossible. At 0900 hours, the echo killed Harrison. We were conducting a live fire exercise, shooting at papered targets set up in a clearing. Harrison fired his rifle, 5 rounds. Controlled burst, hit the targets. 5 seconds later, we heard the exact same gunfire, same rate of fire, same sound signature, the echo of Harrison's shots. But the bullets were real. They hit Harrison from behind. 5 rounds, same pattern he'd fired. His own shots echoed back from 5 seconds earlier, hitting him instead of the targets. Harrison went down, dead before he hit the ground, killed by his own gunfire from 5 seconds in the past. "Cease fire!" Reeves yelled. "Everyone stop shooting! The echoes are real! They're physical!" But Coleman had already fired at a target. 3 shots, and 5 seconds later we heard the echo. 3 shots from the fog behind Coleman. Same sound, same pattern. Coleman tried to dodge, but the echoes were too accurate. His own shots played back, hitting him from behind. 2 Marines dead in 30 seconds, killed by echoes of their own gunfire. "The fog doesn't just record sound and movement," Mitchell said, his voice shaking. "It's recording everything, including ballistics, including trajectories. When you fire, it records the shot. Then, 5 seconds later, it fires the same shot from the opposite direction. You're being killed by yourself from 5 seconds ago." "How is that possible?" Walsh demanded. "I don't know," Mitchell yelled. "None of this is possible, but it's happening. The fog is somehow storing kinetic energy, storing momentum, storing trajectory, and replaying it with a 5-second delay." "Everyone unload weapons," Reeves ordered. "Magazines out. Chambers clear. If we don't shoot, the echoes can't shoot back." We complied, unloaded our rifles, made them safe. But the damage was done. 2 Marines dead. And we were beginning to understand what we were facing. The fog didn't just echo sound, it echoed everything. Every action, every movement, every force. And it played it back perfectly 5 seconds later. "We need to leave," Bennett said. "Get out of the fog. Get to lower elevation where visibility is clear." "Agreed," Reeves said. "Tactical withdrawal. Stay together. No sudden movements. No aggressive actions. Anything we do will echo back in 5 seconds. Move carefully." We started moving back toward the trailhead. Slow, careful, every step measured, because every step would be echoed, every movement replayed. At 1,000 hours, Nash spoke. "How far to clear air?" His voice echoed back 5 seconds later. "How far to clear air?" But there was something different about the echo. It wasn't just repeating his words, it was sharper, clearer, more precise. like the echo was learning how to speak better. "Did that echo sound weird to anyone else?" Garcia asked. 5 seconds later, "Did that echo sound weird to anyone else?" But again, slightly different. The echo was more natural, more human, less like a recording and more like someone actually speaking. "It's learning," Stanstall said. "This is the second phase. The fog has recorded you for an hour now, has heard your voices hundreds of times. It's learning speech patterns, learning inflection, learning tone. Soon, it won't just replay your words. It will say what you're about to say before you say it." "That's not possible," Walsh said. 5 seconds later, "That's not possible." But this echo came 4 seconds later, not 5. The delay was decreasing. "Did you notice?" Mitchell said. "That echo was 4 seconds, not 5. The delay is shrinking. It's synchronizing, learning to match our timing." Walsh spoke again. "This is just acoustic phenomenon." 3 seconds later, "This is just acoustic phenomenon." 3 seconds now, Sullivan said. 2 seconds later, 3 seconds now. 2 seconds, Parker said. 1 second later, 2 seconds. 1 second, multiple Marines shouted immediately. 1 second. The echo was real time now. Perfect synchronization. Our voices and the echoes speaking simultaneously. And then something impossible happened. Bennett was about to say, "What happens next?" But before he could speak, the echo said it. "What happens next?" Bennett's mouth opened. He'd been about to say those exact words, but the echo had said them first. 1 second ahead, predicting what he was going to say before he said it. "Oh, fuck," Bennett whispered. "It's predicting us. It's echoing from the future." "That's not possible," Walsh said. But his voice was hollow, because we'd all seen it. The echo speaking before the person. The fog predicting our words. "It's learned your patterns," Stanstall explained. "Has heard you speak for an hour. Knows your vocabulary, your sentence structure, your thought patterns. It can predict what you'll say next based on what you've said before. And now it's echoing you from 1 second in the future instead of the past." At 1100 hours, the echoes started moving 1 second ahead. We'd see our movement before we made it. A shadow in the fog doing what we were about to do before we did it. Taking steps we were planning to take. Raising weapons we were thinking about raising. "It's reading our intentions," Garcia said. "Somehow, reading body language, reading micro-movements, predicting what we're about to do and doing it first." "How do we fight something that knows our next move?" Carter asked. And before anyone could answer, his echo spoke. "How do we fight something that knows our next move?" But the echo came 2 seconds before Carter spoke. 2 seconds in the future. The delay was increasing in the opposite direction, now echoing from 2 seconds ahead. "It's accelerating," Mitchell realized. "First, 1 second ahead, now 2 seconds. It's learning to predict farther into the future. Soon it'll be 3 seconds. 4, 5. "We need to be unpredictable," I said. "Stop following patterns. Stop doing what we normally do. Be random, chaotic. If it learns from patterns, we need to have no patterns." But it was too late, because at 11:30 hours, the echo reached 5 seconds ahead. Sullivan was planning to take a step forward. 5 seconds before he moved, his echo in the fog took the step. Exact same motion, same foot, same distance. 5 seconds before Sullivan did it, his future self had already done it. "This is impossible," Walsh said. 5 seconds earlier, his echo had said, "This is impossible." We'd heard the echo before Walsh spoke. The fog was now perfectly echoing us from 5 seconds in the future, showing us what we were about to do before we did it. And that's when we realized we were in serious danger. Because if the fog could predict our movements 5 seconds ahead, it could predict our attacks, our defenses, our tactics. Every move we made, it had already seen 5 seconds before we made it. We were fighting an enemy that knew our future. And you can't win against an enemy that knows what you're going to do before you do it. The fog was now echoing us from 5 seconds in the future. Every word we were about to say, we heard 5 seconds early. Every movement we were planning to make, we saw 5 seconds before we made it. The echo had learned our pattern so well it could predict us perfectly, and that made us vulnerable. Because if you know what someone's going to do 5 seconds before they do it, you can counter them, exploit them, kill them. At 1200 hours, we tried to establish a defensive perimeter. Standard infantry response to unknown threat, form a circle, weapons out, cover all approaches. But as soon as we started moving into position, we saw our echoes in the fog doing it first. 5 seconds ahead, taking the positions we were about to take, aiming in the directions we were about to aim. They're setting up the perimeter before we do, Walsh observed. We're watching our future selves establish the defense we're planning. So the echoes know our tactics, Bennett said. They know what we're going to do because they're us from 5 seconds in the future. They've already made every decision we're about to make. Reeves tried something. He was about to give an order. Sullivan, take North Security. But before he spoke, we heard his echo say it. Sullivan, take North Security. 5 seconds before Reeves opened his mouth, and Sullivan's echo in the fog moved north. 5 seconds before Sullivan did. The future Sullivan taking position, then the present Sullivan moving to the same spot 5 seconds later. This is a problem, Mitchell said. His voice was shaking. If the enemy can hear our orders before we give them, can see our movements before we make them, can predict our tactics before we employ them, we have zero tactical advantage. We're fighting an enemy that has perfect intelligence on everything we're about to do. Then we don't plan, I suggested. Don't think ahead. Don't follow tactics. Just act on impulse. React without thought. Be random. That's not how Marines operate, Walsh said. We're trained to be tactical, disciplined, to follow doctrine, to plan our actions. And that's why we're predictable, I replied. The fog has learned doctrine, has seen thousands of hikers over centuries, has recorded every human pattern. It knows how trained soldiers think, how they move, how they respond. We need to stop thinking like soldiers. But before we could implement that strategy, the fog demonstrated just how dangerous predictive echoing could be. Parker was holding his rifle. 5 seconds before he moved it, his echo raised the weapon. We saw future Parker aiming. Then, 5 seconds later, present Parker's hands moved to the same position, like he was following a script his future self had already performed. I can't control it, Parker said, panicked. I'm doing what my echo did, like I'm following a predetermined path, like I have no free will. You're following your own intentions, Stanstall explained. The echo isn't controlling you. It's predicting you. You were always going to make that movement. Your echo is just showing you what you were going to do anyway. The question is, can you change your mind? Can you do something different from what your echo predicts? Parker tried. Watched his echo raise his left hand. Then Parker deliberately raised his right hand instead. But the moment he made that decision, his echo switched, now raising its right hand, 5 seconds before Parker did. It adapts, Parker said, horrified. The moment I change my plan, the echo changes too. It's not just predicting one path, it's predicting whatever path I choose. I can't surprise it because it sees every possibility. At 12:30 hours, the fog attacked. Not directly, but by exploiting its predictive knowledge. Garcia was walking through the fog. 5 seconds ahead, his echo walked the same path. But the echo walked into a tree branch, hit it hard. Then 5 seconds later, Garcia walked into the same branch. Same impact, same injury. "It's showing me hazards before I hit them," Garcia said, rubbing his head. "But I still hit them because I'm following the same path my echo took." "Try going a different way," Bennett suggested. Garcia altered his path, moved left instead of forward, but his echo, 5 seconds ahead, also moved left, into a different tree. Then 5 seconds later, Garcia hit that tree. The echo had predicted his alternative path. "I can't avoid obstacles," Garcia realized. "Because any path I choose, my echo shows me hitting obstacles on that path. And then I follow my echo and hit the same obstacles." "It's a trap," Mitchell said. "The fog is using prediction against us, showing us our future, forcing us to follow it. We're trapped in a predetermined timeline. Everything we're going to do, we see ourselves doing 5 seconds early, and then we do it, like we have no choice." Sullivan decided to test something dangerous. He was about to take a step toward a cliff edge. We were on a trail with significant drop-offs. 5 seconds before he stepped, his echo stepped, walked right off the cliff, fell, and 5 seconds later, Sullivan felt his foot moving, felt himself stepping toward the cliff, like his body was following the path his echo had shown. He tried to stop, tried to pull back, but momentum carried him forward. Same step, same position, same trajectory as his echo. I grabbed Sullivan's arm, pulled him back, stopped him from following his echo off the cliff. "Thanks," Sullivan gasped. "I couldn't stop myself. It was like watching a movie of my future death and being unable to change the script." "The echoes aren't just predictions," Stanstall said. "They're becoming deterministic. The fog is showing you what you will do, not what you might do, what you will do. And you're following it because humans follow patterns, because your brain makes decisions and your body executes them. The echo sees the decision before your body moves, shows you the result, and then you follow through." At 1300 hours, the echoes killed Nash. He was about to throw a grenade. We'd been trying to use smoke grenades to obscure our movements from the echoes. 5 seconds before he threw, his echo threw. The grenade went left, toward the group. "Grenade!" multiple Marines yelled. But Nash couldn't change his throw. His muscles had already committed. 5 seconds after his echo, Nash threw his grenade. Same trajectory, same force, same direction, left, toward the group. We scattered. The grenade exploded. Nash was too close. The explosion from his own grenade, the one he threw following his echo's pattern, killed him instantly. "He couldn't change the throw," Carter said, staring at Nash's body. Once the echo showed him throwing left, his body followed, like the echo locked him into that action. "We're fighting determinism," Mitchell said. "The fog predicts our actions based on learned patterns, shows us our predicted future, and then we fulfill that prediction because we're following our own established patterns. We're trapped in a loop of self-fulfilling prophecy." At 1330 hours, we tried to use the echoes against themselves. If the fog was echoing us from 5 seconds ahead, maybe we could exploit that. Use the echoes to gain information. Walsh devised a plan. If I'm about to walk into danger, my echo will show me walking into danger 5 seconds early. I can see my future self getting hurt, so I don't follow that path. He walked toward a dense section of fog. His echo, 5 seconds ahead, walked into the fog. Then we heard the echo scream. The echo Walsh had encountered something hostile in that fog, something that made him scream. Walsh stopped, didn't follow his echo. See? The echo warned me, showed me danger. I chose not to go. But 5 seconds later, Walsh felt himself moving forward, against his will, his body following the path his echo had taken, walking into the fog where his echo had screamed. We heard Walsh scream. Exactly 5 seconds after his echo. Same tone, same terror, same everything. We rushed in, found Walsh. His throat was torn, like he'd been attacked by claws, by something in the fog that neither we nor our echoes could see. The echo didn't warn him, Bennett realized. It showed him his fate, and he couldn't escape it. He tried to change course, but his body followed the predetermined path. The echo isn't showing possibilities, it's showing inevitabilities. At 1400 hours, we had 9 Marines left. Reeves, Walsh, Mitchell, Coleman, Bennett, Parker, Sullivan, Garcia, Carter, and myself. And all of us were terrified, because we were fighting something impossible. An enemy that knew our every move 5 seconds before we made it. That showed us our own actions before we performed them. That locked us into predetermined paths we couldn't escape. There has to be a way to break the pattern, Coleman said. Some way to act that the fog can't predict. True randomness, I said, not planned randomness, not tactical unpredictability. True chaos, actions with no pattern, no thought, no preparation, just pure random impulse. Marines don't operate on random impulse, Walsh said. We're trained to be disciplined, controlled, tactical. Everything we do has purpose. And that's why we're dying, I replied. Because purpose is predictable. The fog has learned purpose, has recorded 1,000 years of purposeful human action. It knows how people act when they have goals, when they have plans, when they think ahead. But true randomness, actions with no purpose, no pattern, no predictability, that's something it can't have learned. Because humans almost never act truly randomly. Mitchell considered this. You might be right. The fog is a learning algorithm. It predicts based on observed patterns. But if you do something completely random, something with no basis in learned behavior, it wouldn't have the data to predict it. At 1430 hours, we tested the theory. Carter was about to walk forward. His echo showed him walking forward 5 seconds ahead. But then Carter did something completely random. He jumped backward. No reason, no purpose, just pure random impulse. His echo didn't predict it. 5 seconds earlier, the echo had shown forward movement. But Carter jumped backward, and the echo didn't change, didn't adapt. For 5 seconds, Carter had done something his echo hadn't predicted. It worked, Carter said. I was random, and the echo couldn't predict it. I broke the pattern. But 5 seconds later, we saw a new echo of Carter, an echo that showed him jumping backward. The fog had updated, had learned from Carter's random action, had added it to its database of possible human behaviors. It adapted, Mitchell said. You were random once, and now the fog knows you can be random, has recorded your random jump. Next time you try to be random, it'll predict that too, because it's learned that you're capable of randomness. Randomness has become part of your pattern. At 1500 hours, the echoes became aggressive. Up until now, they'd just been showing us our future. But now they started attacking. Not physically, they were still just echoes in the fog, but they were using their predictive knowledge to hurt us. Sullivan was about to step over a log. His echo, 5 seconds ahead, stepped over the same log. But the echo then turned and shouted, "Sullivan, behind you!" 5 seconds before anyone was actually behind Sullivan. Sullivan spun around, brought his rifle up, but there was nothing there. He'd reacted to his future self's warning, a warning that was false, a warning about danger that didn't exist yet. But 5 seconds later, Sullivan's movement, spinning around, raising his weapon, put him off balance. He stumbled, fell, hit his head on a rock, knocked unconscious. The echo baited him, Parker realized. Showed him reacting to danger 5 seconds before the danger existed. So, when he followed his echo's pattern, he reacted to nothing, and hurt himself. The echoes were learning to manipulate us, using our tendency to follow our predicted patterns against us, showing us futures that would hurt us, knowing we'd fulfill those predictions. At 15:30 hours, the echoes killed Parker. His echo showed him running, 5 seconds before he moved. The echo Parker was running from something, looking terrified, sprinting through the fog, and 5 seconds later Parker felt the urge to run, felt fear, felt terror, not because there was actual danger, but because his echo had shown him feeling fear, had shown him running. And his brain, seeing his future self afraid, created the fear to match the prediction. Parker ran, following his echo's path, but the echo had run toward a cliff, and 5 seconds after his echo went over, Parker followed, couldn't stop himself, his body following the predetermined path his echo had shown. Parker went over the cliff, 200-foot drop, dead instantly. The echoes are killing us, Bennett said. Not by attacking, by showing us futures where we hurt ourselves, and we follow those futures because we see ourselves doing it. We're locked into patterns of self-destruction. 8 Marines left, and all of us understanding that we were fighting something we couldn't beat with training, couldn't beat with tactics, couldn't beat with strength or skill or discipline. Because the fog knew all of those things, had learned them from 1,000 years of humans, could predict every trained response, every tactical decision, every disciplined action. The only thing it couldn't predict was true chaos, true randomness. Actions so unpredictable that no pattern recognition system could forecast them. And only one of us was chaotic enough, young enough, untrained enough, random enough to survive. The rest would die following their own predicted patterns, watching their futures in the fog, and fulfilling those futures because humans follow patterns even when the patterns lead to death. 8 Marines remaining. Reeves, Walsh, Tyler, not the one who died earlier. I realize now I've been confusing names in my trauma. Mitchell, Coleman, Bennett, Sullivan, Garcia, Carter, and myself. Wait, that's 9. I'm losing count. The fog is making me confused, making my memories uncertain. Maybe that's part of what it does. Records your thoughts and plays them back wrong. Let me recount. Staff Sergeant Blake Reeves, Corporal Mitchell, Corporal Coleman, Lance Corporal Bennett, Lance Corporal Sullivan, Specialist Garcia, Specialist Carter, and Private First Class Eric Cole. 8 of us, 4 already dead. Harrison, Coleman, Coleman is alive. I'm getting confused again. The fog is in my head now, playing back memories wrong, creating false echoes of events, making me question what's real. Focus. 8 Marines left, and the echoes are learning to kill us by showing us our own deaths. At 1600 hours, Reeves tried to take command, tried to implement proper tactical procedures. We establish rally points. We maintain communication. We execute proper defensive. His echo interrupted him, speaking 5 seconds before he spoke. We establish rally points. We maintain communication. We execute proper defensive. But the echo added something. After the echo spoke Reeves' words, it said, "And then we all die." Reeves hadn't said that, hadn't thought that. But 5 seconds later, he felt the words forming, felt himself about to say, "And then we all die." The echo had predicted his despair, his acceptance of death, his loss of hope. And because he'd seen his echo say it, because he'd seen his future self expressing defeat, Reeves felt defeated. The echo had created the emotion by predicting it. Self-fulfilling prophecy on a psychological level. "We need to stop listening to the echoes," Mitchell said. "Stop watching them. If we don't see our futures, we can't be influenced by them." "Close your eyes," Reeves ordered. "Cover your ears. Block out the echoes." We tried, shut our eyes, covered our ears, but the echoes weren't just external. They were in our heads now. We could hear our own thoughts echoed back 5 seconds before we thought them, could feel our own movements predicted before our muscles fired. The fog had learned us so well it was inside us, predicting our neural patterns, our thought processes, our decision-making. We weren't just hearing echoes in the environment. We were experiencing echoes in our consciousness. "I can hear my next thought before I think it," Garcia said, his voice hollow. "The echo is in my mind, telling me what I'm about to think 5 seconds before I think it. I have no mental privacy, no internal life. Everything I'm about to think, I hear first as an echo." "It's learned your brain patterns," Stanstall explained. He was still with us, somehow calm despite the horror. "The fog has recorded you for hours now, knows your thought processes, your mental rhythms, your cognitive patterns. It can predict your thoughts because thoughts follow patterns just like actions do." At 16:30 hours, the echoes killed Coleman through psychological warfare. His echo showed him shooting Bennett, 5 seconds before Coleman even had the thought. The echo Coleman raised his weapon, aimed at Bennett, fired. And 5 seconds later, Coleman felt the urge, felt his hands moving toward his weapon, felt the impulse to shoot Bennett. Not because he wanted to, but because his echo had shown him doing it. And seeing yourself do something creates the motivation to do it. Self-fulfilling prediction. Coleman fought it. Tried not to grab his weapon, but his hands moved anyway, following the pattern his echo had established. Raising his rifle, aiming at Bennett. "Coleman, don't!" Reeves yelled. But Coleman couldn't stop. His echo had predicted it, had shown him shooting, and his body was fulfilling that prediction. His finger moved to the trigger. Bennett reacted instinctively, drew his sidearm, shot Coleman. 3 rounds, center mass. Coleman went down. Dead. Bennett was shaking. "I didn't want to, but he was going to shoot me. His echo showed him shooting me, and he was following it. I had to—" "You did what you had to," Reeves said. But his voice was uncertain, because we all understood what had happened. The echo had created a scenario where Coleman would die, had shown Coleman doing something that would force Bennett to kill him, had manipulated both of them into a situation where one had to die. The fog was actively killing us now, using prediction as a weapon, creating self-fulfilling scenarios that ended in death. At 1700 hours, Sullivan's echo showed him running toward Mitchell with a knife. 5 seconds of warning. Mitchell saw the echo, saw Sullivan's future self charging with a blade. And then, 5 seconds later, Sullivan felt the compulsion, felt his hand reaching for his knife, felt his legs starting to run. "Sullivan, fight it," I yelled. "It's just a prediction. You don't have to follow it." But Sullivan couldn't resist. His echo had shown the pattern, and his brain was executing the pattern. He ran at Mitchell, pulled his knife, attacked. Mitchell defended himself. Hand-to-hand combat. Training took over. Mitchell disarmed Sullivan, broke his arm, put him on the ground. But in the struggle, Sullivan's broken arm got twisted wrong. Bone severed an artery. Sullivan bled out in under 2 minutes. "The echo made me kill him," Mitchell said, staring at his hands. "It showed him attacking me, knowing I'd defend myself, knowing that defense would kill him. It orchestrated his death by predicting he'd attack me. The fog is using our training against us, Bennett realized. Shows one Marine attacking another. The attacker follows the echo's prediction. The defender responds with trained reflexes. Someone dies. The fog kills without attacking, just by showing us futures that lead to our deaths. At 17:30 hours, 6 Marines left. Reeves, Mitchell, Bennett, Garcia, Carter, and myself. And all of us were breaking down, watching echoes that showed our deaths, fighting urges to fulfill predictions that would kill us, trapped in a fog that knew us better than we knew ourselves. Chaos, I said again. Pure randomness. It's the only way. Stop thinking, stop planning, stop following any pattern. Just act on pure impulse with no thought. That's not how humans function, Reeves said. We think before we act, plan before we move. That's what separates us from animals. And that's why the fog can predict us, I replied. Animals can't be predicted as well because they act on instinct, on immediate response to stimuli, no planning, no pattern, just reaction. We need to be more like animals, less like trained soldiers. Garcia tried it, stopped thinking ahead, started acting on pure impulse, saw his echo showing him moving left, so he moved right. Random choice, no reason. It worked for 5 seconds. His echo had predicted left, he went right, he'd broken the pattern, but then his echo updated, showed him moving right. The fog had learned that Garcia would try to do the opposite of what was predicted. Doing the opposite became a pattern the fog could predict. It learns too fast, Garcia said. Any strategy we use, it records and predicts. We can't outsmart it because it learns our outsmarting. At 1800 hours, darkness was falling. The fog was getting thicker, and the echoes were getting more aggressive. Carter's echo showed him walking off trail into dense forest. 5 seconds later, Carter felt the urge to walk, tried to resist, but his legs moved, following the echo's path. We tried to stop him, grabbed him, held him back, but Carter was strong, broke free, walked into the forest following his echo's predetermined path. We heard him scream, then silence. When we found him, he was dead, impaled on a broken branch. His echo had walked him directly into it, had shown him a path that would kill him, and he'd followed it because his body executed the predicted movements. 5 left, Bennett said quietly. At 1830 hours, Bennett's echo showed him removing his helmet, then showed him hitting his own head against a rock. Suicide, self-inflicted death. And 5 seconds later, Bennett felt his hands moving to his helmet, felt the urge to hurt himself. "Bennett, stop!" Mitchell grabbed his hands, held them away from his helmet. "Fight it! Don't follow the echo!" But Bennett was stronger, pulled free, removed his helmet, raised a rock. Looked at us with terrified eyes. He didn't want to do it, didn't want to die, but his echo had shown it. And his body was following the script. He brought the rock down on his own head. Once, twice, 3 times. Killing himself while we watched, following his echo's predicted suicide, unable to resist the predetermined pattern. "The fog is making us kill ourselves," Garcia said. His voice was empty, dead, showing us suicides, and we follow. We can't resist our own echoes, can't fight our own predicted actions. 4 left, Reeves, Mitchell, Garcia, and myself, and all of them were losing hope, accepting death, waiting for their echoes to show them their final moments. But I was different. I was the youngest, the least trained, the most random, and I'd been watching the pattern, understanding the mechanism. The fog learned from repeated actions, from established patterns, from predictable behaviors. But I was unpredictable, not by strategy, not by plan, but by nature, because I was young, inexperienced, undisciplined. I didn't have ingrained patterns because I hadn't been a Marine long enough to develop them. At 1900 hours, Garcia's echo showed him shooting Reeves. 5 seconds later, Garcia raised his weapon, pointed it at Reeves. But before he could fire, I tackled him. Random action. No thought, no plan. Pure impulse. Garcia's gun went off. Missed Reeves. Hit Mitchell instead. Mitchell went down, dead instantly. I didn't mean to, Garcia started. But then his hands moved, turned the gun on himself, following a new echo, one that showed him shooting himself out of guilt. I grabbed the gun, yanked it away. Random timing, random force, random direction. No pattern for the echo to predict. Garcia collapsed. Thank you. The echo was making me kill myself. I saw it 5 seconds ahead. Knew I was about to do it, couldn't stop. But you stopped me. 3 left. Reeves, Garcia, and me. And we were entering the final phase. The phase where the fog would show us our inevitable deaths. And we'd follow those echoes because humans follow patterns, even patterns that lead to death. But I was learning something, learning to embrace randomness, learning to act without thought, learning to be chaos instead of order. And chaos, I was discovering, was the only thing the fog couldn't predict. Because true chaos has no pattern, no history, no precedent. It just is. Pure action without cause, pure effect without reason. And in that fog that learned everything, pure chaos was the only unknown, the only hope, the only survival. 3 Marines left in the Great Smoky Mountains fog. Staff Sergeant Blake Reeves, Specialist Garcia, and Private First Class Eric Cole. The fog had killed 9 of us by showing us our futures and forcing us to fulfill them. 9 Marines dead from self-fulfilling prophecy, from pattern recognition, from predictable human behavior. But I was different, and I was starting to understand why. At 1930 hours, we tried one final tactical approach. Reeves, being the ranking Marine and trained leader, attempted to organize an escape. We move in single file, maintain visual contact, head downhill toward clear air, standard tactical withdrawal. His echo spoke 5 seconds before he did. We move in single file, maintain visual contact, head downhill toward clear air, standard tactical withdrawal. And we saw the Echo Marines following that order, saw ourselves in the fog 5 seconds ahead, moving in single file, heading downhill, following standard tactical procedure. Then we watched the Echo Marines die, one by one, following the tactical plan. Each death visible in the fog 5 seconds before it happened to the real Marines. We can't follow that plan, I said. The echo shows it failing. Shows all of us dying if we follow standard procedure. Then what do we do? Reeves demanded. We can't just wander randomly. We need structure. We need, his echo interrupted. We need structure. We need, and then the echo added, and that's why we die. Reeves went silent, because the echo was right. Structure was death. Planning was death. Tactics were death. Because the fog had learned all of it, had recorded 1,000 years of human tactical thinking, knew every strategy, every formation, every procedure. The only thing it hadn't learned was pure chaos. Because chaos by definition can't be recorded, can't be predicted, can't be learned. At 2,000 hours full darkness, the fog was luminescent now, glowing slightly, like it was energized, like it was feeding on our fear, our predictability, our deaths. Garcia's echo appeared, showed him walking toward Reeves, pulling a knife, stabbing Reeves in the back. 5 seconds of warning before Garcia would do it. "Garcia, fight it!" Reeves yelled. "Don't follow the echo." But Garcia's hand was already moving, reaching for his knife. I can't stop it. I see myself doing it, and my body is following. It's like watching a movie of my actions 5 seconds before I perform them. I'm locked in. Garcia lunged, knife out, moving toward Reeves, following his echo's predicted path exactly. I acted on pure impulse, no thought, no plan, just random reaction. Kicked Garcia's leg, random angle, random force, random timing. Garcia stumbled, fell. The knife went wide, missed Reeves. Garcia hit the ground hard, and in falling, the knife turned, went into Garcia's own chest. Accident, random chance, unpredicted outcome. Garcia looked at me, blood coming from his mouth. The echo didn't show this. Showed me stabbing Reeves, not stabbing myself. You broke the pattern. Garcia died, and his echo, 5 seconds ahead, showed him dying differently. Showed him stabbing Reeves and then being shot by me. But that future didn't happen, because I'd introduced chaos, random action that created an unpredicted outcome. "You saved me," Reeves said, "by being random, by acting without thought. You created a possibility the echo didn't predict." 2 of us left, Reeves and me, and the fog was thickening, pressing in, like it knew we were close to escape, like it wanted to finish us before we reached clear air. At 20:30 hours, Reeves' final echo appeared, showed him taking his sidearm, putting it to his head, pulling the trigger. Suicide. Clean. Final. Predicted. "No," Reeves said. "I'm not doing that. I won't follow the echo. I won't." But his hand was moving, reaching for his weapon, following the pattern his echo had shown. 5 seconds to live. 5 seconds to fight his own predicted suicide. "Reeves, stop!" I yelled. "I can't," Reeves screamed. "It's not me moving. It's the echo, the prediction. I see myself doing it, and my body follows. I'm watching myself die, and I can't." He put the gun to his head, eyes locked on mine, terrified, pleading, trapped in a predetermined death he couldn't escape. "Be random," I yelled. "Do something the echo doesn't predict. Anything. Just, I don't know how." Reeves pulled the trigger, following his echo, fulfilling the prediction. Dead before he hit the ground. And I was alone, the last Marine, the worst Marine, the most random, the only one chaotic enough to survive. The fog closed in, completely surrounding me, luminescent, glowing, alive. And I heard voices, not echoes, real voices, whispers from the fog itself. "You are the anomaly," the voices said. "We have learned humans for 1,000 years. We know their patterns, their tactics, their thoughts. We predict them perfectly. But you have no pattern, no consistency, no predictability. You are chaos, and chaos cannot be learned." "What are you?" I asked the fog. "We are memory," the fog responded. "We are the accumulated recordings of every human who has walked these mountains. Every word spoken, every action taken, every thought processed. We have been recording for 1,000 years, learning human patterns, understanding human behavior, predicting human futures. Why? Because that is what we are. We record, we learn, we predict, we show humans their futures based on their patterns, and they follow their futures because humans are pattern-following entities. You see yourself doing something and you do it. That is human nature, pattern recognition and pattern fulfillment. But I broke the patterns, I said. Yes, you are young, untrained, unpredictable. You have not yet established the rigid patterns that older, more trained humans develop. You act on impulse, on randomness, on chaos, and chaos is the only thing we cannot predict, because chaos has no precedent, no pattern, no history. So you're letting me go. We cannot stop you, cannot predict you, cannot show you a future that would kill you, because your actions have no pattern to extrapolate from. You are interesting. You are the first human in 1,000 years to survive through pure randomness. Every other survivor survived through luck or circumstance. You survived through chaos, through intentional unpredictability, through embracing disorder. The fog began to thin, to pull back, opening a path downhill toward clear air, toward escape. Go, the fog said. Leave our mountains. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that patterns are death. That predictability is death. That training is death. Tell them that only chaos survives. Only randomness. Only those who act without thought or plan or pattern. Will they believe me? I asked. No, the fog replied. They will think you insane. Will think you traumatized. Will think you delusional. Because humans value patterns, value training, value predictability. They will not accept that chaos saved you, that randomness kept you alive, that being unpredictable was your only survival trait. Then why tell me to warn them? Because we want to see if you can break their patterns, can make them understand, can convince them that everything they train, discipline, tactics, predictability, makes them vulnerable to us. We want to see if your chaos can create chaos in their systems, can introduce randomness to their rigid structures, can make the predictable unpredictable. The fog pulled back completely. I was standing on clear trail. No mist, no echoes, no glow, just normal mountain air and normal darkness. Behind me, I could see the fog bank, a wall of luminescent mist, staying at exactly 2,800 feet elevation, not moving higher or lower, just waiting, recording, learning, predicting. I walked down the mountain, reached the ranger station at 0200 hours, reported that my squad was missing, presumed dead. Search and rescue deployed at dawn. They found the bodies over the next 3 days. Harrison, Coleman, Nash, Walsh, Parker, Sullivan, Bennett, Carter, Mitchell, Garcia, Reeves. All dead. Various causes. Gunshot wounds, falls, head trauma, knife wounds. The official report said, training accident, environmental hazards, multiple casualties due to poor visibility and hazardous terrain. No mention of echoes. No mention of predictive fog, no mention of Marines dying from self-fulfilling prophecies. I spent 6 weeks in psychiatric evaluation, told them everything. The echoes, the 5-second delay, the learning phase, the predictions, the self-fulfilling deaths. They diagnosed me with severe PTSD, survivor's guilt, trauma-induced psychosis, gave me medication, therapy, medical discharge. Told me that fog can't learn, can't predict, can't show futures. That I'd experienced hallucinations from stress and altitude and witnessing my squad's deaths. But I know the truth. I know what lives in the Great Smoky Mountains. I know what the fog is, what it does, what it's been doing for 1,000 years. And I know that I survived not because I was strong or smart or skilled, but because I was random, chaotic, unpredictable. The worst Marine in the unit became the only survivor because being the worst meant having no established patterns, no rigid training, no predictable responses. I was too young and too undisciplined to be learned, and that saved my life. I've been tracking reports since then, disappearances in the Smokies, unexplained deaths, groups that enter the fog and don't come back, or come back with one survivor who tells impossible stories about echoes and predictions. And always, the survivors are the young ones, the inexperienced ones, the chaotic ones, the people who act on impulse instead of training, who respond randomly instead of tactically, who embrace chaos instead of order, because the fog has been learning for 1,000 years, has recorded every hiker, every ranger, every visitor, has learned human patterns so well it can predict our futures perfectly, can show us what we're going to do before we do it, can trap us in self-fulfilling prophecies that lead to our deaths. The only defense is to have no patterns, to be purely random, to act without thought or plan or purpose, to embrace chaos so completely that no pattern recognition system can predict you. But humans don't want to be random, don't want to be chaotic. We value structure, planning, discipline, training, predictability. We build our entire civilization on patterns, on consistency, on doing things the same way every time, and that makes us vulnerable, makes us predictable, makes us easy for the fog to learn and predict and kill. I'm writing this as a warning. To anyone planning to hike in the Great Smoky Mountains, to anyone entering fog above 2,800 feet, to anyone who values their training and their discipline and their tactical thinking, leave it behind. All of it. In that fog, your training kills you. Your discipline traps you. Your tactics doom you. The more trained you are, the more predictable you are. The more predictable you are, the easier it is for the fog to show you your death. And once you see your death, you follow it. Because humans follow patterns. Even patterns that lead to death. Be random. Be chaotic. Be unpredictable. Act without thought. Move without plan. Speak without purpose. Embrace pure impulse, pure chance, pure disorder. It's the only way to survive, the only way to avoid being predicted, the only way to break the patterns the fog has learned over 1,000 years. Be chaos, because in the Great Smoky Mountains, chaos is the only thing the fog can't echo. I'm Eric Cole, Private First Class, United States Marine Corps. Medical discharge, November 2023. Sole survivor of the Echo Unit. The worst Marine who became the only Marine to walk out of that fog alive. Because I was too random to predict. Too chaotic to learn. Too young and undisciplined to have patterns worth recording. And in the end, being the worst was the only thing that kept me alive. Stay out of the fog, stay below 2,800 feet, and if you must enter, be chaos. Be pure, unpredictable, patternless chaos. It's the only way to avoid becoming an echo of yourself. The only way to prevent seeing your death 5 seconds before you die. The only way to survive. Be chaos, or become a prediction. Those are your only options in the Great Smoky Mountains. I chose chaos, and I lived.